This is the voice of Bob. People might ask, well, what did you do after the tech business? Well, I turned on to something completely different.
Let's smoke pot! Well, you can smoke it, you can chew it, you can really try to do it smoking pot.
Believe it or not, I still actually haven't done any pot since the 1980s, and the stuff back then was pure, unadulterated ditchweed. It was utter crap. We're talking leaves, we're talking stems, we're talking seeds. We didn't have the premium product that you have today. So I'm holding out. I'm waiting for a lot of favors to be called in. Because I've been working with the cannabis startup community since 2014. I started kind of playing with them a little before that, but I really made the clean break and went into the cannabis startups full time. Now I know what you think.
How much do you smoke?
This will be a little demonstration of that. Listen up. That was my skull. I'm so wasted.
But it's a little more than Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It's actually now a very diverse culture. It actually always was. But now it's no longer just some stoner humor. Now, it's professionals. All walks of life, all demographics. It's actually very wide. It's a lot wider than Silicon Valley will ever publicly admit. They claim they are, but they're not. If you want diversity, and I'm not talking about forced diversity, I'm not talking about affirmative action. I'm talking about people who are starting their second careers because they burned out of the first one, like I did. I'll admit it, I burned out. But I'll tell you what, I've had more fun with more people of every flavor and kind in Colorado, in Oregon, in California, because they're all chasing the new gold rush. They call it ganjapreneurs. I think that's a little too precious. It looks good in a magazine. I just call them businessmen, and they're under a lot of pressure because it's a cash-only business. Most of them can't bank. If you touch marijuana physically or deal with it physically, you ain't going to the bank. You're handing stacks of cash to be hidden off-site. Often you won't even know where it is. That's the job of the security service. They hide the money, and they're held accountable. That's some of the downsides, but we'll get back to that in a minute. Cannabis is not only thriving as a culture, it's also thriving because it actually helps people. Opioid deaths and injuries, hospital visits have gone down as high as 18% in those markets that have legal recreational. Nearly as high if they have access to medical. Because it's not a narcotic. Certain celebrities, certain government reports will throw around the narcotic word, or the N-word, everywhere. They love to throw it on marijuana, or cannabis, as it's actually called. Marijuana is a fake word. Got started in the 40s. They could even figure out how to spell it. If you look at the earliest hemp licenses for marijuana, it's not spelled the way it is now. Because it was a fake word. No one knew what a fake word was supposed to be spelled. Yeah, it's got some origin in Spanish, but it's always been cannabis. If you put marijuana into Wikipedia, cannabis is the page that comes up. Because that's what it's really called. Anyway, opioid abuse has declined. And that's what kind of scares the pharmacoms. I know it sounds like a conspiracy theory to say it, but honestly, when you've got at least a dozen painkillers on the market, which are just variations of heroin. It's just heroin with a chemical change-up so they can get the patent. These are the guys who then are scared shitless when somebody can get a little bit of weed out of their backyard, because you can grow 6 plants in most states, which actually makes a lot of pot. And you can actually alleviate a lot of your symptoms. Is it a cure? No. For some people, they claim it's a cure for cancer and all this, We don't know for sure. The research is most definitely out. I'm not going to make those claims. And I'm not a doctor. But I'm saying if you've got access to medical cannabis and you've got chronic back pain, hey, give it a try. If you're a person who's retired, you're over the age of 60, 65, 70, whatever, you're not going to have a urine test. It's right up the street. Have a bong. Have a hit. I know people who basically get through the day with only 2 to 4 hits for whatever their malady is. They're not pie-eyed, heavy-duty stoned. They're not rolling out of badly painted vans. There's all the stereotypes. What is curious, though, with all this going on, the candidate who promised the following...
Legalized marijuana is always a very difficult question for medicinal purposes, for medical purposes. Absolutely, it's fine.
Seems to have picked a head of the DOJ who's either brilliant or less than brilliant. We're talking about Jeff Sessions. He's the head of the DOJ, Department of Justice. And he's saying that, well, I'm just enforcing the law. I can't really get involved. I'm going to go ahead and prosecute again for any states that request it. Now, part of the reality is those states, now that have it, love the license money, love the local tax money. They're not going to get rid of that. That's not going anywhere. So they're not going to call for, quote-unquote, help. Could be because he's using it as a weapon or a bulwark against organized crime and cartels. Like MS-13. And that's fine. I support that. The local business people who are growing crops of cannabis in Colorado, California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington State, and many others, 29 in all, are basically saying we don't need criminal gangs running around. We don't need people trying to interdict our money. We don't need people stealing from our crops. We don't have to buy so much fucking security. Would be nice. So, yeah, get the gangs. Fine by that. You know, you could try to romanticize it and say, well, they're just like bootleggers. No, they're really not. Boy, are they not. Trump wasn't kidding when he said they weren't sending their best. They're not. So what are you left with? Well, that could be one reason. Another theory that's been tossed out is, like he says, he's putting it in Congress's hands. If we want to make a change, it's up to your congressman to make the difference. And that's true, he can. It's going to take a while, though. And even though more states have it than don't, I don't know if that's going to really translate into the votes. You got 2 houses, the way they function, about as convoluted as you can get. But here's the funny thing. The argument Sessions didn't tell you is that the DOJ, as per law, Congress gave him this ability. It's the law that he can schedule or reschedule anything. And there's a reason for that. The biggest reason is that the drug culture comes up with new toys and innovations all the time, whether it's liberating medicines from the psychiatric community or coming up with new quote-unquote designer drugs. They work just like the other drugs. They just reformulated them with one molecule missing. You take a little molecule here and a little molecule there, and legal as table salt. At least until the Department of Justice says, oh yeah, that thing too. But here's the thing. They don't just get to say no to stuff. They can reevaluate it. Usually it's done in conjunction with the FDA. And that process can, I'll admit, be convoluted. Believe it or not, though, it's already been done. There was a report as far back as 1973 that did a study on cannabis and said, nobody dies. You OD on it, you may think you're going to die. You may want to curl up into a ball because you did so much hash brownies that you're going out of your mind. But you'll be all right. Sit tight. Watch TV. You'll be fine. Next time, don't do so much, frickin' noob. But anyway, so it's safe. Safe from physically killing you, which amazingly, most of the drugs legally on the market from the pharmacoms, they can't say that. They will kill you. You take too much, you're dead. motherfucking dead. Not theoretically, really dead. So, they already said, hey, this stuff's fine. Nixon said, we're not doing anything with this. Thanks. Here's some money. Go away. There's a report sitting in a filing cabinet right now that Sessions could reach in, pull out, say, oh, well, in accordance to the 1973 report, I'm descheduling cannabis. Right now it's scheduled as banned as heroin and cocaine. Hint, it isn't that dangerous. Heroin will kill you real fast. Cocaine too. Not quite as fast, but it'll get you there eventually. Especially if you're mixing the two. So, he could turn it off right now, but he won't, because he's a Southern gentleman. He's got his priorities and his purpose. That's who he is. So now it's up to Congress. And fortunately, again, there's more states where there's legal cannabis and states where they're not. And that's what's going to probably happen. This will probably be the year of legal marijuana. And we have Jeff Sessions to thank. And getting back to startups, it's really kind of funny that there is a lot of tech parallels because Peter Thiel, who's gay, he was the first gay executive to speak publicly at the RNC for Trump. He has the first VC-backed fund for cannabis startups. Sean Parker, co-founder of Facebook, the one who was depicted as the slimy, albeit hip non-nerd in the Facebook movie, he was the one who co-authored the law that gave California its current legalization. Came out really good, too. I did some work with that team. Not him personally, but team that he was backing. PAC, Political Action Committee. I did some graphic design work. Not a lot. If you don't think that cannabis startups are the new gold rush, how about the co-founder of PayPal? Is that good enough for you? How about the co-founder of Facebook? Sounds good to me. Sounds like an endorsement. May want to look into that. Because once they can do banking, the foot will be off the brake. And all hell's going to break loose. There's going to be some speculation. There's going to be some crash and burns. There's going to be some hustles. There's going to be people who basically come up with the most inane, stupid ideas. And by the way, the industry does have downsides, not just banking. All right, you have double taxation. Because right now, until the feds legalize it, they can't deduct their expenses. So they're taxed at a much higher rate. Medical coverage, forget it. All right, they don't qualify, they're illegal. RICO basically factors into a lot of this. There is some racial bias. And I do mean good old-fashioned racial bias, not theoretical. Because, for instance, in Colorado, you can't get a license to do business with cannabis if you have felonies on your record. Well, that sounds great. Most of these clean white guys maybe got a misdemeanor, maybe let off with a warning. Blacks, low-hanging fruit, easy money. So they might have an arrest. They can't get the license. As a result, there is tip of the scale of whiteness, which is unfortunate. It doesn't mean they're excluded from the business, though. I've worked with ones that are ancillary media businesses like magazines, up-and-coming live stream companies, broadcasters, point of sale, inventory tools, pipes, all sorts of things. So they're not completely shut out, but they are excluded a little bit. And so that's something that would be nice to work on. Maybe say, if you've had 2 felonies, if you've been a dealer, maybe they should have a year where you can get licensed regardless of whatever happened. Because, you know, who gave a shit if you snuck a bottle of rum in 1936? It's been that long for some of the legal out states that are legal. It's been that long. You can't hold it against them forever because they had a roach or bong, cigar filled with weed. Anyway, that's just one thing to sort of keep in mind. It is a problem. I'm not saying problematic. Hate that word. But it's just something to keep in mind. It's definitely not a business for full-time employment. They love freelancers because you don't need benefits. And they can hire you and fire you within a week. So you're disposable. So the full-time job market picture isn't that great. Upsides, a lot of business in all sectors. Graphic design, child-proof packaging, growth technology, farms, areas in places like Pueblo, which are just poorer than dirt, are finding that dirt actually, once it's got a marijuana seed or cannabis seed growing in it, it's fairly valuable. And the city's been very forward-thinking in terms of allowing people to farm cannabis in their area, helping them. And it's exploded. And now they have a labor shortage in packaging, farming, cultivation, putting up greenhouses, construction, retail, transport, everything. It's all there. High skill, low skill, marketing, advertising, tech, it's all there on all fields. There's not very often that a completely new marketplace is completely opened up in the U.S. economy. And that's what you look forward to if the U.S. government will legalize. We'll be right back.
I've tried fad diets, powders, pills. Still, my weight's been up and down like a yo-yo until the AIDS plan taught me how to take off weight and help keep it off.
AIDS may taste like a candy, but AIDS contains one of the most effective appetite suppressants you can buy, and there's no stimulant in AIDS that could make you nervous.
With AIDS, I ate less, so the weight came off. To help keep it off when I sometimes want things loaded with calories, AIDS helps put me in control.
Let the AIDS plan teach you how to take off weight and help keep it off. Try peanut butter AIDS.
Finally coming up, something fun. You might have heard of Pepe. You might have heard of various groups saying Pepe is a hate thing. For those who find racist iconography, swastikas, Hitler memes, putting a little Hitler stash on a frog, those guys are basically just looking to shock, right? They're the new punks, but not quite as fashionable in my opinion. But that's what they're doing. They're just trying to elicit a reaction. So you have a frog. A frog that was actually cited by a presidential candidate in 2016. A cartoon frog. Well, there's more where that came from. So we have a successor to Pepe. By the looks of it, Uganda Knuckles. It's basically some fan art of a poorly drawn Knuckles, animated for singing. But wait a minute. Why am I telling you this? Let's take a look.
I don't want to set the world on fire. Excuse me. I don't
With a gun, he put a gun towards me and said, freeze. I said, I'll never freeze.
Attack! Oh shit!
It's never gay if it is in Zimbabwe.
And trust me, if that doesn't look like fun in the bun, I don't know what is. That is basically a VR chat room. This kind of thing actually isn't as new as you'd think. This happened in the previous decade too. It's just the technology sucked and you didn't strap goggles to your face. And then 10 years prior to that, you did strap goggles to your face, but the technology was even worse and you threw up a lot. 10 frames a second. That happens. VR motion sickness. Still a thing today. When the inner ear says, I'm not moving and you think you are, you're going to hurl. About, I would say, 66% if I was to take a guess. Possibly more. There's a lot of bugs that need to be shaken out. So most of these keep you standing still or you teleport from location to location so you don't get the swimmy swams. That's a term I just invented. Or maybe I didn't. I don't care. I like it. Swimmy swams. So that's a VR chat room. And once you give people the ability to skin themselves in any costume of any kind, what are they going to do? Get a uniform. Get a uniform with bulging eyes. And what the hell? Let's talk like we're from Uganda. Let's talk like people from Uganda starring in a terrible B movie. Now, that's the fun of the meme. It's not just this, that, and the other. It's everything at once. So it's like an inside joke with an outside joke and a little bit of another inside joke. It's fun. And once people get it and emergent group behavior occurs, oh, it's a party. It is like a party of 12 people doing a theme, doing some LARPing, being weird, being funny. But SJ culture doesn't like that. They think you're being racist. You're making fun of Ugandans. But they're not. They don't give a shit. They just think it's funny. Because it's absurd on top of absurd on top of absurd. Even the maker of the film that they're quoting lines from has retweeted some of their stuff. Because it's funnier than shit. He doesn't care. Most people from Uganda don't get any attention from the Western Hemisphere. They'll get the occasional news story on the BBC. Some people in Europe will notice their plight or problems and help them, send them aid. U.S. doesn't give a shit. I seriously doubt you could name even half the countries in Africa. Even if I could, I'm not sure I could tell you where they belong on the map. And that's not because I'm illiterate. It's just I haven't looked at a map on that side of the world in a while because I haven't had to drive around there, oddly enough. I memorize subway maps. I memorize train schedules. I memorize bus schedules. Where I live. I memorize highways, times to get to work, times to go to the movie theater, time to get to the restaurant in my area. Everybody does. There's nothing special about it. Doesn't make you superior. If you try to tell me, where's this in Uganda? Don't know, don't care. Doesn't affect my life. Doesn't affect your life. Admit it. It doesn't. And you really think that these people playing this character online are actually racist against a country they don't even probably know where it is on the map? No, they don't. They just saw some pop culture come out. The latest filmography pop culture. In the 60s, it was spaghetti westerns. Then it was Bollywood. Now it's Ugandan bad action movies. They're funny as hell. They're endearing. They actually believe in the product. They make effort. They don't have any money, so it looks horrible. But there's some passion behind it. And it's fun to see them play, to actually try to make something popular. It's very popular over there, and we like it too. That's how pop culture works, right? It doesn't have to be Gone with the Wind. It doesn't have to be 2001 Space Odyssey. It can be bad and good. We all know that. There's plenty of those. But that's the thing. SJWs don't give a shit. They're just killjoys. Professional killjoys. But more than that, SJWs have been screwing up Marvel Comics. They've been screwing up movies like the Ghostbusters and Star Wars and popular franchises which cost Disney billions of dollars to get. Well, they got them, and they set fire to it. So nobody in the audience that watched those films will ever watch it again. They'll never go to another Ghostbusters film. Technically didn't lose money because we were able to pick the pockets of some Chinese. Does that sound racist? I got news for you. Place isn't a race, right? It's a country. I can't be racist on a pile of dirt. But they do have money, and Hollywood knows this. That's what's been sneaking in more Asians into the film. A little casting skew. There's nothing wrong with that. Hell, if there's a storyline that requires some martial arts, go for it. They're the best at it. At least we think they are. That's the assumption. Maybe that's racism. Who knows? Racial bias? Racial cognitive dissonance. I don't know. I'll find a word. So, but the bigger reason is they cast those people because when they do and they shop the film to China, they're more excited to see themselves. And who wouldn't be? It's a lot easier to fantasize your space hero if you can actually, see somebody you might see in the mirror on the screen. There's nothing new about that. That's biology, baby. We all do that. So they've been making some money with that. And so they don't take a huge loss, but the cost of marketing is now so ridiculous to try to push this crap onto the screen when they're competing with video games, when they're competing with more channels, when they're competing with more YouTube. It's harder to get those seats filled consistently. The drop-off is really fast. So they're going to make their money, bang, right out of the gate. If they don't, a film that breaks even is a flop because the marketing costs are larger than the cost of the release to make it. And these films are getting ridiculously expensive. Nothing wrong with that. A lot of money to go around, a lot of contractors, a lot of people pushing buttons on those keyboards, making video games look like cinema. Who cares about the acting? Let's get some video game action on the screen. Let's push it up to 2 hours because this screensaver took a while to process. We got to show it off. So they do that. But here's the trick. When something goes wrong and they start marketing to SJWs, start pandering to SJWs, here's the thing. They don't watch or care about Ghostbusters. They don't care about comics. They don't care about Magic the Gathering playing cards. They don't give a fuck about football. And even if they did, the fraction that do will never, ever turn a profit. Oh, they're vocal. You'll find them on Facebook and Twitter. I don't care. I'm not on those services. I don't give a shit. And most of the younger kids that are coming up, they think you're an old fart if you use Facebook. They don't give a crap. They may still be on Twitter. They probably have migrated to something else. So they're not really invested in your bullshit. And they don't care. They're onto something else. They're on a Markiplier or Game Grumps or any of the Let's Players. Or now they're getting a taste for politics. Because politics right now is entertainment. There's so many people freaking out and overreacting, or pretending to, or have no sense of humor. It's hard to tell the difference sometimes. That's the new entertainment. Now we can take trolling out of the nerd core and put it on prime time. And that's what the kids are doing. They're having a good old time watching their L&L Bean Volvo driving. Well, it's an outdated reference. Now it's pink pussycat wearing, celebrity worshipping. And boy, isn't that a great pastime? Let's worship Madonna, the washed up hack who's been collecting a 6-pack of black kids from Africa. Nothing racist about that, right? But that's the new thing. Let's piss them off. It's fun. And we can do that with a goofy-ass, poorly drawn video game character from 25 years ago and make him talk like he's from Uganda. Now that's progress. This is the voice of Bob. Take care, everyone.